Hello, welcome to Hotline Live with Record Sport, brought to you by VPN. Let me start again. Brought to you by NordVPN, the best VPN for watching all of your sporting events when you're on your travels. That was a good start. Keith, how's it going?
Yeah, I wonder if NordVPN could get us in touch with some sort of artificial intelligence, sort of a presenter here.
Listen.
Any kind of intelligence we're doing now in artificial.
Right on
That's
cue.
what the A stands for.
We're joined all the way from Celtic Park by the one and only Michael Gannon. Mick, how's it going?
I'm all right. I'm joining you live from the world class media facility. It is the famous Parkhead Marquee.
Otherwise known as the tent in the car park.
It is also available for weddings and bar mitzvahs. Hopefully not in February when it's freezing.
Have they got a heater on there, Mick? It looks freezing.
It's been turned on, but obviously it's not been on all day, so it's meant to be about time for the air to circulate in here. That's why I'm still all wrapped up. Might put a bonnet on in a minute.
But look, weddings, bar mitzvahs.
The soldier on.
Wedding, but also Martin O'Neill's press conference today ahead of a really big game against Stuttgart tomorrow night.
Thankfully, he didn't have him out there in the cold.
Well, thankfully that was indoors. Thankfully that was inside. He only did a post-match out here. I think the last time he did say it was freezing, didn't he? The last time as well. Yeah, he was in good form. I mean, obviously, it's seen today that he's heading for his 1,000th professional game as a manager. We actually think there's more than that because he did a couple of seasons in the kind of the very, very lower reaches of English kind of non-league.
That's right.
Was it Strepshed Charterhouse or something like that in Grantham Town Grant Star Claus, one of these ones. So 1,000 games, another landmark for him. Listen, he was good. Listen, he's not a guy who likes to kind of. He doesn't like getting dragged down memory lane too much. Because obviously he's nothing he's played in the present. But yeah, it's just a nice moment to get to that kind of tally. You don't get there by accident. Most of the managers on that 1,000 club are kind of like all-time greats or modern greats. There's a few not so greats in there as well that have managed to kind of blunder their way along for decades, I guess. But for the most part, they're all top managers and they're there for a reason. So he's in good company. Well, his old mentor, Brian Clough and all that is in there as well. So it's a nice moment for him.
It's your Pep Guardiola's, your Jurgen Klopp's, that sort of a calibre of people that, yeah. So
Brian Clough,
that's an achievement.
His old mentor, Brian Clough's in there as well. So a nice moment for him to get to that kind of company. So yeah, it was good on that. It was, we had a good crack with him about it as well. Which will be good in tomorrow's paper. But in terms of the game,
hold on, Mick. Before we talk about this, obviously we want to. I understand at one point during the presser today, he was asked about keeping the door open and potentially still being in charge of Celtic, agreeing to be in charge of Celtic next season, and he didn't shut the door on it. Is that right?
Yes, but it does that. It does the thing he does when he answers the question, then contradicts himself 3 times in the same answer as well. So he didn't. And then we kind of always saying to him, he keeps saying things like, "Oh, you'll not be here. I'll not be here this time next year," and all that stuff. And you go like, "Well, you never know." You're like, so listen, I don't think he'd ever close the door on Celtic in terms of staying in the job.
I don't know, Mick. He has done. I think that's a shift. I think that's. And he does this, and you're right, and we're left to guess and kind of pick it apart and wonder what the real meaning is behind it. But I think he's been fairly emphatic on the fact that, previously this can't go on indefinitely, this won't go on indefinitely, it's to the end of the season. He got to a point in his first time in interim charge where the messaging seemed to change. You think, wait a second here, could this go on longer term? It did go on a bit longer term. And if this is another slight shift where he's just not shooting down, because he did sort of shoot it down earlier, I just wonder if he's becoming more open to the idea. And I wonder if, depending on what Celtic's success rate looks like between now and the end of the season, if we might be having this similar conversation again. I just find it quite interesting that he didn't shoot that one down in flames, because I think he has done a couple of times previously. That suggests to me the slightest shift, although he always says it, as you said, and then reverses and then 180s and all sorts of stuff.
I think he enjoys it. I mean, I think he does enjoy this. He always says he doesn't enjoy it, and it's always nerve-wracking, and he hates it. And all. He makes the usual kind of jokes, but I think he does actually revel it. And he's completely, he certainly enjoys winning games. That's for sure. And that's what he does best. If Celtic got himself in a mess in the summer and couldn't get a manager, and they said to him, "Can you stay on?" I think he would. Yeah, you're right. I think he would say, "Yeah, we would go for it." You've also got to bear in mind he's 74 in a fortnight. He's actually just turned 74 on March the 1st, which is a slightly kind of big game at Ibrox that day. So that's a birthday. Ibrox. When he's 74. But listen, Harry Redknapp was talking about coming back at 78 last week at Spurs, wasn't he? He was touting himself for that job. I just think he's got so much on his plate just now to deal with. I mean, he's got 12 games left in the league. It's just huge. Miss European matches, I think, are a wee bit of a distraction, to be honest. There's a Scottish Cup as well. But if you're asking if I think he would be up for it, I don't really doubt he would be. I think he's by the way, he's got some stamina. I mean, I must admit, I asked him the other week, I was kind of half jokingly asking if he watched the Super Bowl, because I know he likes his NFL, and he goes, I stayed up and watched to the last quarter when it was all done and dusted. And I was kind of joking. I was like, it was about 2 o'clock in the morning. I said, that was my bed. I'm only covering you guys, and I'm shattered. He's sitting watching that till 2 o'clock in the morning before training.
But Mick, he doesn't want to go to sleep because remember he sees your face in his dreams.
Well, that's maybe he's just trying to fight it off. You're right. Watching Freddy Krueger.
Well, look, maybe we can actually hear from Martin O'Neill a little bit earlier on today. Hear the man himself. Let's hear what he said.
And just on your 1000th game, I know when you came for your second sort of interim stint, if you want to call it that, you were quite adamant that you would just be here till the summer. But with every passing week, there's more victories and there's more progress in competitions. You're cutting the gap at the top of the league. Is there any circumstance come the summer where if the club wanted to look at maybe a sort of continuity appointment, given how tumultuous the manager upheaval's been this season, would you be open, now that you've been in Celtic for the second time a while now and you've had a look underneath the bonnet, would you be open to continuing your stay beyond the summer?
I really genuinely think that's too far in the future for me, genuinely too far in the future. I wouldn't think it. And you mentioned about the 1,000 games. If you'd seen my early matches at Leicester City in late 95, early 96, you'd have got long odds of me doing 1,000 games in that time. So, but back to your point, I think that it is far too far in the future. It's like, to me, it's a long way away, and how I might feel today might be totally different in 10 days' time. We've got a lot of games here. We've got a lot of work to do. And if we fall by the wayside, which we could easily do, I don't think we'd even been having any sort of discussion.
In the comments,
that wasn't a no.
In the comments, Marzuno says Martin O'Neill will be Celtic manager next year, 100%. He says the board are caught in a trap. They won't want to make the same mistake twice. Alan says Martin O'Neill knows the club needs stability. He'll be moved upstairs to director of football role, and a new manager sought out in place for pre-season. Chick says Martin Lewis for manager. He's good working with a budget. Mo says Martin O'Neill was a figurehead. Maloney doing the day-to-day stuff. Craig says he wants the Motherwell manager ahead of Martin O'Neill. I think, for what it's worth, it will be Martin O'Neill next year. I just think there's so much work to do, an entire rebuild. He's already in the door. Maybe he's the best man to start it. I don't know.
I think we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah,
but I do think, and I think that's why Martin O'Neill's answering that question the way that he has done, although it is slightly different language. But I do think there's an issue. And it's a great issue for Celtic if they end this season with another title and with a Scottish Cup. Do you really at that point say, thanks very much, Martin, off you pop? Where's Wilfred Noncy Mark II? I'm not sure that you do. So I think it could be entirely, the whole kind of parameters of the conversation will be entirely dependent upon what happens between now and May. But if he was to end this season with a league title and or a Scottish Cup, it becomes, I think the context of the conversation changes significantly.
What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, Celtic at the moment seem to be kind of, I'm not saying rudderless, but they need to get their act together and think what's going to be the long-term plan at the club. At the moment, they're just treading water and trying to stay above water and stay in this title fight in Scottish Cup. I mean, does Martin O'Neill part of the long-term strategy for the next 2, 3, 5 years? you've got to say it's a bit unlikely, really. I don't think there'll be many complaints if he's still in charge in terms of supporters. I mean, you look at the results he's pulled off, but I just think that Celtic should really be thinking about who's going to be taking charge of the next cycle for Celtic. This is the end of a kind of Celtic cycle. It's the end of the kind of the Postecoglou, Rodgers kind of years. There's a lot of changes required in the summer. There's a massive rebuild required in the summer in terms of players leaving and needing to come in. I just think if they end up with Martin still in charge, then I think they might have taken a misstep in terms of where they're looking. But like I say, I mean, the punters would probably lap it up. Whether Martin would feel that way, I mean, he's got a sense of obligation when it comes to Celtic, I think, Martin Neil. But stretching it into another season, when you're 75 during that next season, I don't know. I'd have my doubts. But then, listen, the way it's been going at Celtic, who knows?
On the game itself tomorrow night, Mick, was there any clue about the team that he's going to put out there? I mean, you said it yourself a little bit earlier on. This game is maybe a wee bit of a distraction. I think, you know, if he was completely 100% honest privately, Martin O'Neill, I would bet that he probably doesn't want to have this game. But will it be what sort of team will he put out?
I think he's kind of wrestling a bit of a dilemma. I mean, I think he could do without this game at this point in time. I don't think Celtic are equipped really to be fighting on this front at the time, which is probably a bit of a kind of a shame in some ways for Celtic, because I think on a good season, if they found themselves in this competition at this stage, they might think, like, if this had happened 12 months ago, we went to Bayern Munich, I think you'd be thinking, if we're in this competition, think maybe a chance to get to the quarterfinals, semi-finals, a few exciting nights at Celtic Park. Whereas this season, they're not really equipped for it. They're just not really. The bigger games in the home front, whether or not that's a bit of indictment of where they've been this season, really. But they can't. It's a bit of a hindrance, I think. But then again, Martin Neil's own kind of pride and desire to do well in Europe kicks in. So again, a bit like what I'm saying about the answer to the question. You ask a question, you could do with this, and you go, yeah, we're not really equipped. I don't think we're going to win it. It's a long way to Istanbul, and it's a lot of games. Then he goes like, but we're here now, and no point wasting what we've done. And you can see him fighting with it all the time. So I think he wants to go and put on a show. I think you might think that if he gets a performance against Stuttgart over 2 legs that are a good standard, maybe if they do go out, it's no big deal disaster. But it can build a bit of confidence and momentum to take into the domestic football. I think that might be the best case scenario for him. I think narrowly going out over these 2 legs, but put up a good show.
I think he's wrestling with himself, Mick, a little bit with this one, because I can see both sides of it. I think you're absolutely right. He's got too much professional pride to just think, well, I'm not interested. Europe was always the sort of a place where he liked to measure his progress, Celtic's progress. He's here. They've got a shot, and I don't think he's going to throw that away. I also think he has to balance that off against what he doesn't want to do is send out a team that's not strong enough to survive in a home leg against Stuttgart and gets blown away. And Celtic haven't been particularly impressive playing his first choice 11 in domestic scenarios recently. So how does he then think, with one eye in the weekend, send out a slightly weakened team when his full strength teams have been struggling to cut it domestically? I think there's so many curious kind of questions about this. I wonder if he might just find it simpler to go with strongest 11 and hope that it's good enough to keep them in the tie, and hope that he then has enough fresh fit bodies for the weekend. But I don't know if that's too much of a gamble. That's why I find this one so hard to predict in terms of what Martin O'Neill does. I
think he's wrestling over the same points. I think he doesn't want his team to get thumped. He doesn't want. I mean, that's a dilemma as well. You put a full strength team, then they get thumped, and you've got a. Must have seen how those results compete.
Does even more damage to morale.
And so does he put out a weakened team, and if they do get thumped, he can write it off as a kind of second string. But then you're limited. He's only made 3 changes. He can only make 3 changes from the squad for Christmas anyway. So he's not really got that many options as such. But does he try and get guys like Paulo Bernardo to play himself into form? Does he play Junior Adamu and try and get him up running after getting the hook at the weekend? These are kind of. I mean, obviously Mavuka's not in the group, I don't think. Oxlade-Chamberlain obviously isn't in it either, which is maybe not a bad thing. After playing 45 minutes, he can get a week of his feet up and get ready for the weekend. Does he play Rio Hatate and try and get him finding a bit of form from somewhere? These are all things that I think he will be weighing in his mind overnight tonight as he picks his team. I think it's he's got a few dilemmas, hasn't he?
See as well on that. I mean, I don't know if this is just me, But I think it's went a wee bit under the radar just how good this Stuttgart team is. I mean, I think everyone knows it's a top team, it's a Bundesliga team. But I was watching clips and reading about them the other night. They've got the golden boy, Sebastian Hoeneß, as manager, who's the next big up-and-coming thing, won the German Cup with them. I mean, Dennis Undav, Stiller in midfield, who's been linked with Real Madrid and Man U, and Demovic has got 16 goals. I think this, if Celtic do weaken their team, they could get a sore one.
Aye, they're banging form as well, aren't they? I mean, they're up to 4th in the Bundesliga, and they're rising. They look a cert to get a Champions League spot. I think they'll be even thinking about winning this tournament.
I agree.
That'll be firmly in their minds as well. I mean, I know it's a long way from the final at this point in time. Was it the last 24 playoff? We call it last 24.
Won this year in the last 16.
It's this new format. I think they'll be fancy their chances of going well away and win this thing. There's some big hitters in the tournament still, obviously, but they're one of them. Yeah. I think it's a really tough tie for Celtic. I just think in their current state, listen, you've got to be realistic. They've just scraped past the 3 of the bottom 5 teams in the Premier League in the last week, even the last minute winners.
When you put it like that.
Yeah, and they're still missing big. I mean, people forget they're missing their big performers this season. In Callum Carter-Vickers, Arthur Johnson, Jota, they're 3 first names of the team sheet in Europe, especially. Huge miss this season. A lot of new.
So what do you do, Mick? I'm making you Martin O'Neill. Now I'm going to say to you, if you've got a choice, there are key performers that potentially could do with a night off. I'm thinking about your Callum McGregors, for example. Can you even contemplate sending Celtic out into a game like this without the captain? Is there anybody else in that team that you think we can take him out the firing line? We can, even if it means a slight downgrade, it's worth doing because of the context of the domestic competition.
Yeah.
What do you do if you were having to pick that 11?
To be honest with you, I wrote a few weeks ago that Celtic can almost kind of write off Europe and just put out the kind of a shadow team and go for it. But the closer these games get, you want to see Scottish teams doing well in Europe. And I actually think, I don't think Celtic are cut to go all the way to the latter stages of this competition, semi-finals and finals. I just don't, right? But you never know. You never know. And if they can get a result and then if they somehow get through the tie, then you're in the last 16, then you get another tie, and you think, I just think it'd be a waste opportunity now to get abandoned Europe. Listen, Celtic have won 13 out of 14 or 14 out of 15, whatever it is, Premier League titles, right? Many European finals they've been to. I mean, the last time they got to the European final was hailed as a great season. They won the league that year. People forget they won the league 2003 under Martin O'Neill. They won a trophy that year.
But if you're realistic at the same time, Mick, you look at the squad that they're currently working with and the squad that previously got to a European final, and there is no comparison. So if you're being realistic about it, you assess this current group and you say they're not going to get to a final.
We're not the risk and probabilities here. You think if you have to prioritise at some point, I think you've got to prioritise the domestic league now at this point in time. Because the Champions League is there as well.
I would throw the caveat in though that European final would be unbelievable. Last time Celtic won a European knockout tie though was 20 odd years ago against Barcelona. I mean, forget the final, just get through into the odd tie. Do you know what I mean? It's been that long.
Aye. Think of the poor coefficient. I mean, poor wee coefficient team.
Exactly,
oh, it's taking a pounding, man.
Absolutely thumped about the place. Picked all around for tacky. Could we do with some points for the greater good of the nation going forward? I get the point. I don't know the answer to that either. That's why I don't think Martin O'Neill does at this point in time.
Mick, before we let you get up the road and get out the freezer, what's your prediction?
Maybe he'll make his mind up. Maybe he'll make his mind up tonight in his bed when he's visited by the ghost of Gannon at the end of the bed. The thought of any more European trips with this man cutting about, nah, it's all over.
That's a night on the ghost train, that one, isn't it?
That's it. Right? How do you think it'll go tomorrow night, Mick? What do you think the score will be?
I think Stuttgart will be too strong. I think this Celtic team, when you put them under pressure, they can get a bit flaky. Question marks in the middle of the park. I think Engels is a big miss. I think he's bigger a miss. He's more missed when people don't see him in there. Maybe taking for granted a wee bit at times. I think Stuttgart will get the players that can exploit that. I think so they'll put up a fight. I think it'll be a decent enough game. I think they'll probably get down 2-1 maybe, which wouldn't be a bad idea. Wouldn't be a bad situation really. I think the tie should be alive going to Germany next week. Maybe a narrow defeat. Because I think you got to remember some of the performances in Europe this year have surprised people. I mean, going to Feyenoord and winning so comfortably was a surprise. The Bologna performance was a bit of a surprise at times, holding on with 10 men for so long. Utrecht first half, they were the goods have been all season. I think that's when Martin O'Neill realised at half time, by the way, boys, we're going to qualify here. We're going to chance you could just chance you could hit reverse. So there have been some proper good performances. I mean, even before that. I just think, I think it might be a tall order, this one.
Give us a score, Mick. What do you think?
2-1 to Stuttgart, I think. It gives them a fighting chance going to Germany next week to keep it alive.
Aye. Mick, it's always an absolute pleasure having you in the Hotline Live. Safe travels up the road, and I guess we'll see you again soon.
Yep, no worries. I'll go and get my jammies on to go and pester Martin O'Neill.
Nice one. Thanks very much, Mick.
See you later, guys.
See you soon.
See you, mate.
The star of the Hotline, Keith Michael Gannon. His cachet rises every time he's on the show now, I feel like.
Yeah, and especially when you try and consider him in a green and white onesie.
Let me run through a few more comments that we've had. George says, rest players, we won't win the trophy and it will cost us the league. I think we are too weak in the league. Rangers have dynamism in midfield, we don't. Burnsy says, Stuttgart are a tidy side but beatable. Not any of our teams do well enough in Europe to even consider thinking of just dismissing Europe. We go and give our best. McKenna says, McKenna says, don't think there's any question. Celtic must go with the strongest team. Chick's very confident. He says, get by Stuttgart. We'll do Porto and Forest on the way to the final. Marzuno says, he rested these players against Kilmarnock. That didn't go too well in the first half. Singing the Blues says, I hope Celtic come through unscathed. I don't want any excuse for when we scuffed them at Ibrox. So there you go. That's nice camaraderie there between Old Firm fans. What would you do, Keith?
I don't know. I see Mick change his position. Because he had originally said you basically send out the B team. And I can see an argument for that. Because what really matters in Celtic's season is domestics. And this is a tough run of games. You've already highlighted it. How does it go again? Stuttgart away?
Stuttgart away, Rangers away, Aberdeen away, Rangers away.
So, look, there are two ways of looking at it. And often, Martin O'Neill is, what's a silly thing to say. Martin O'Neill is certainly more of an old school manager. And old school managers tended, not necessarily all the time, but as a rule, you go into these games, you can't plan in ahead and worry about who might get injured because somebody could get injured in training.
Yeah.
So you assess what you've got, you put together the strongest 11, you send it out, you deal with whatever the consequences are, and you roll over into the next game and the game after that. I think it's been complicated, modern day football, by the laptop squad that are cutting about telling you who's in the red and who's. And I get there is a place for the technology behind the scenes. I think it can be used as a good tool. It can be helped to advise. I wonder sometimes if it's overused and there's an over-reliance on it, and managers are scared to ask players, are you good to go here? Are you good to go again? If I play you tonight, I don't want you to tell me that you're feeling tired at the weekend. And players with a real appetite to play, 9 times out of 10, and the sports science department might be tearing their hair out, but players know their own bodies. I think that, and remember there was a really interesting point last season, was it, when Philippe Clement was resting players because basically the sports science department told him to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to a press conference at Celtic Park and I asked Brendan Rodgers at that time, would he be manipulated or sort of pushed into making a decision by his sports science department? He said, absolutely not, ever. He said, look, these guys are there. We value them. The information they give us is great, and it becomes part of a bigger picture. But Brendan Rodgers was very much of the old school. I think Martin O'Neill's very much of the old school. But it does come down to this. The overriding question, Mark, is how badly does Celtic want this Europa League? How realistic is it for Martin O'Neill to think, do you know what? If we can just get through this, we might just get through the next one. And knowing Martin O'Neill, knowing how much he absolutely loved and was basically with Celtic every step of the way in that journey to Seville back in 2003. It was a magic carpet ride for Martin O'Neill and for Celtic, for the club, for the fans. Pretty hard for a manager who's experienced that to now look at it and say, oh, do we care about this? Not so much. So the answer to your question is, I'm like Mick. I'm totally in the dark. I have no idea what the manager will do, what he should do. It's going to be really interesting though to see what the starting 11 looks like, and it wouldn't surprise me, Martin O'Neill being Martin O'Neill, if he does exactly as we've just said there and sends out his strongest and says, look, do you know what? Whatever happens tonight, whatever the consequences are in terms of injuries, knocks, whatever, we'll deal with that. We'll deal with that when the final whistle's blown and we can start doing our our preparations for the next one. I wonder if that's the route you'll go down. Sometimes doing that kind of makes it less complicated, Daniel.
Aye, that's kind of what he did in Seville, wasn't it? There was never any talk of rest him for that. It was just, that's my best team. They're playing League Europe.
Yeah, and he'd a dressing room full of men that he could ask them to keep going back to the well.
And I'm no daft.
And I
I
think
get that was a generational, one of the best Celtic teams ever. But I just mean that's, like you say, it maybe keeps it simpler.
And yet Celtic paid a price. Ultimately, people might argue, you know, Martin O'Neill says himself that Celtic fans refer to that season as one of the great Celtic seasons of all time. He didn't like it because Celtic didn't win anything.
Aye.
And you wonder about the impact when Rangers got to the final in 2008 in Manchester. They were collapsing by the end of the domestic league season as well. Didn't win it. Celtic won it. So all these things probably get factored into the decision making that Martin O'Neill will have to make. And I don't think, you know, we can all speculate, but until we see what the team sheet looks like tomorrow night, we won't have our answers. We can only just imagine what's going through the thinking right now and the thought process.
Alan points out in the comments, Rangers got to 2 European finals. They're not great teams. Anything can happen, so you need to go for it. It's a very fair point. Whatever happens between Celtic and Stuttgart tomorrow night, we'll be here to talk about it all in a late night edition of Hotline Live. Keith, these are becoming very... I mean, this is just part of life now. Every week we've got a late edition of the Hotline Live.
It's causing chaos, isn't it? It's causing chaos. No, but do you know what? I think there's something great, I think, about this show, and you know something, the amount of regular people that you know are providing us with comments and talking about it, and they all feel part of the wee family and all that, and it feels like we've been on a sort of ride. We started from scratch 18 months ago. We've brought a little community with us, and they love it. I mean,
and we love them.
And it's there is something about the immediate aftermath of a big night, whether it's a domestic league card, a European night. There's an excitement level, and you know, as much as it may cause us late nights and burning the candle at both ends and all that, Daniel, it's good to be involved in, and this could be a spectacular night for Celtic. Who knows? That's what you just don't know. You just don't know.
Absolutely. So we'll be back at 10 o'clock. I'm not finishing up because Keith, Derek McInnes was speaking today and he had a message for Jambos everywhere. Your Jambos need you. He's laying out the gauntlet.
Do you know what? I'm going to let you take a wee bit of credit for that, Daniel. That's your artwork and I think it's terrific. I think it's to sit with Ryan Stevenson's column in tomorrow's paper. That's the message that Ryan is sending out to the Hearts fans. If ever there has been a moment, you know, and we recognise, by the way, that there was a real critical moment in Hearts' recent history where the club really needed the help of the supporters, and boy, did they rally to that. But I think in terms of just purely on the football side, Ryan Stevenson's point is this is no moment to start criticising decisions or grumbling when somebody makes a bad pass, or you know, getting nervous if Hearts end up in a game situation, a goal behind. This is now all hands on deck. Hearts are 11 games away from something that nobody could ever have dreamed possible at the start of this season. And I think that Ryan Stevens, that's the message he's trying to send out to the supporters. If you were ever needed, purely in football terms, it's now. It's no time for infighting, for squabbles. The players will probably need your help at some point. And we all know what Tynecastle looks and feels like when it's fully engaged, when it's packed to the rafters. And I think it's really interesting. It's the rallying cry. I think that poster is a throwback to the World War and Lord Kitchener. Your country needs you. Well, this is your club needs you time.
When when someone said to me earlier on, "Can you do a graphic of Lord Kitchener?" I'm not ashamed to say I had no idea what they're talking about. And you phoned me and went, "Can you get that Lord Kitchener image?" And I was like, "I've absolutely no idea what you're talking about."
Did you think he was the chief designer at Wren Kitchens or something like that?
I thought he was like in the House of Lords or something. There you go. I think we can actually hear from the Hearts manager,
The
can't
man
we?
in charge of sinks and tap fitting.
Aye, that's a good kitchen. Get 10% off. I think we can hear from the Hearts manager who was speaking earlier on today. Aye, let's have a listen.
We've not really spoke to the players about bouncing back or anything like that. I think that's just human nature. It's part of the course of profession. Usually it's not always going to be a bed of roses. You've got to respond, and there was a lot about the performance we were encouraged by and liked, but it was a difficult afternoon. I thought it was a proper game. I thought it felt like a good tie, a game that meant a lot for both teams, and I thought we were good value. We just lost poor goals at bad times, as we spoke about, but we move on for it. And when you sit back the cold light of day, we knew getting through those fixtures that were coming out away, Tannadice, Simon, Ibrox, dealing with Celtic, playing Hibs in the derby. You thought if we could still be top of the league and come through those fixtures that we had on paper, potentially a good opportunity between now and the split. So we are still where we are, the top of the league, and it's important that we just now focus on the job in hand and not blow to. The big part right now, the business end of the season, is to try and be as good as we can be, because this is when it all gets decided, and we just want to go into the split on good form, in a good place. We do feel we've got that opportunity to be that team. You know what, to go right down that final straight, still something to play for.
You see, the more you go down that straight and the more that you're in top, does the pressure then intensify in the other two, because that, it's the norm that they should be there? You're upsetting the apple cart. Do you think that's something you can use?
Possibly, I don't know. I mean, I think that we feel the pressure on ourselves. We've been there that long, and the disappointment would be so much. We're actually it shouldn't. It's like, and Claudio said something post-match. It's like 41 years or something since a team has actually been talked about like this and actually managed to win the league. So from that point of view, shouldn't be any real pressure on us. We should just got to try and enjoy it, and we are enjoying it. But nobody enjoys defeats, and I want us to keep the sort of form that we've had up until now consistent. Because if we are consistent with those results, then it will go down that final straight, and that's all we want to do. Make sure we're still in the mix with it, and what others put themselves. Rangers spend their fortune in January. Celtic try and get as much done in January as well, already on top of what they've done, because they do know the importance of it, and it's not just each other that they're competing with. They might think it is after Saturday. I think people would be wrong to dismiss us. We're still sitting top of the league, and we have got such a strong home record. Hopefully we can, as I say, make some hay with our upcoming fixtures.
See, just to back up your point, Keith, just one last, I always put the table up, but one last time, look at this table. Hearts, 11 games from the end, right? And you're saying quite rightly, 11 games, they need everything, throw everything at this. I said it the other night, but you look at Celtic and Rangers playing each other, Motherwell thrown into the mix, Hibs and Falkirk are really good teams. There is a scenario, Hearts might only be something like 7 wins from the title.
Yeah.
I mean, tantalisingly so close. 6-7 wins, that could win it.
Yeah. I thought you were actually going to say they should be throwing the kitchen or sink at it.
Aye, that's right.
Sorry.
Right,
but I like the tone of his voice there. I saw Rebel saying he sounds a wee bit down. I'm not so sure. I think that he's a man that is trying to keep a lid on stuff, trying to keep a lid on his emotions, but he's also thrown down a gauntlet there when he's talking about Rangers spending a fortune, Celtic spending on top of what they'd already done. I'm maybe not spending transfer fees, but bringing in more on top of what was already inside the building. And I think just the way that he's talking there, saying, maybe the two of them now think that that's Hearts, we're out of the equation. That'd be a mistake. That's fighting talk. Now, if you remember back to the earliest part of the season when Hearts were setting off in this adventure, he was playing it down week after week. Oh, no, we're just enjoying. We're focusing on ourselves. No, we're not. I tell you, don't be silly. You need to come back to. He's now with 11 games to go. He's not hiding from anything. In fact, he's throwing that gauntlet back into his own dressing room, saying, "Come on, guys. They think you're a busted flush here. What's the response look like?" And he's trying to galvanise with the fans. And I don't think there's any evidence, despite the result that they suffered at Ibrox at the weekend, I don't think there's serious evidence there that you would look at and say, yeah, Hearts are likely to fall apart now or disappear like snow off a dike. I don't think that's going to happen. And I think that Derek McInnes knows the importance of these next 4 games, 3 of them at Tynecastle. And what we said, Daniel, you're right. Maybe 7 wins does it. Well, what if he gets 3 wins in his next 4 games?
Exactly.
Where does that leave him?
Aye, I know.
And in the middle of all that, you've got Celtic going to Ibrox. So Hearts are very much real. They're very much still alive. And I think that's the message that he's very quietly but confidently sending out there. And I think you can almost get that he's almost challenging people, whether that's inside his own dressing room or on the outside. And those that just expect Hearts now to fade away and let Celtic and Rangers fight it out in the final stretch. I don't think that's going to happen. He doesn't look like a man who has lost any belief in his players, and rightly so. What they've achieved together this season so far has been remarkable. But it's like I said a week or so ago, Daniel, there's a difference between doing something really memorable and there's a difference between achieving the unforgettable. And that's where Hearts are at this point in time. They're right on the crossroads.
McClegg, who's a Hearts fan in the comments, says, whatever happens this season, I think we can hold our head high, considering we finished bottom 6 last season with the majority of the same players. And that is a good point. And also in the comments as well, Tommy says, March the 1st, that's Martin O'Neill's 74th birthday. How about the whole crowd sing happy birthday at Ibrox? Too much, maybe. Maybe if we could start like a campaign to get that done, that'd be good. Maybe some of the Rangers forums can get involved in that. That'd be good.
Yeah.
The last thing, Keith, is to talk about tonight.
They'll certainly be singing his name, probably.
They'll be singing, aye.
I'm not sure it'll be happy birthday that will follow
his name might pop up, aye. Luke Graham, Keith, our colleague at Record Sport, Scott Burns, the transfer guru, no less.
For Burns, yeah.
He's written a piece today saying that Rangers are very interested in Dundee defender Luke Graham. He's been a star for Dundee this season, centre back. He says in his piece as well, that's on Record Sport Online now, if you want to check it out, that Portsmouth had a bid kicked out last month.
That's right.
Scotland under-21 defender, as I say, he's been outstanding this season. Is this the kind of template of player Rangers should be going after?
I think Rangers and Celtic should both be looking at him, to be perfectly honest with you. There is obviously there's still the rules in terms of quota of homegrown players to bear in mind when you're listing squads for European football. He has been really, really impressive this season. Classy, composed for such a young kid. Physically, really impressive. Really commanding. I have no. It's no surprise to me that Stephen Presley talks so highly of this boy and thinks that he's got a big future, and why he advised Dundee to turn down what was a bit of a low ball effort from Portsmouth in the window. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I'd put it this way: I'd be more surprised if there wasn't serious interest from Rangers, Celtic, and whoever else. Maybe Hearts, maybe Jamestown. Yeah. Who knows? But I think that he's done enough over the course of this season, and not just in fits and starts, but on a consistent basis over this season, to merit people looking at him very seriously and preparing something. And Burnsy's very seldom wrong. So if Burnsy's heard that Rangers are preparing something, then I have absolutely no doubt that he's correct.
And the very final thing we should mention, big game tonight in the Scottish Cup, Aberdeen Motherwell. We kind of mentioned last night, and I think we're both in agreement that at the minute it's difficult to see past the Motherwell victory. Would you add anything to that, Keith?
No, I'll stick to where I was last night on that. I think I'd be surprised if Aberdeen beat Motherwell at Pittodrie, which again is an indicator of the progress that's been made under Jez Berthgoo, the quality of this Motherwell team, whether they're on their own pitch at Fir Park or whatever it is that they're asked to go and play. They don't change their style. They play the same game. They are terrific, and I fully expect them to be too strong for Aberdeen. And further to that, Daniel, what I would go further, bearing in mind that Celtic need to go to Ibrox, one of them's got to go. And if I'm Motherwell, I'm starting to get a little bit excited about the potential for what may lie ahead this season.
Aye. McKenna says in the comments there, Motherwell to win the cup. I said last night, 15-1. That's a very tasty bet. Stranger things have happened.
Well, not to encourage betting, but
of course
might
not.
be worth a tenner.
just as a guide.
But you know, when you get to this stage in the Scottish Cup in particular, teams are looking at it and they're doing really well to get into the latter stages, whether it's the last 16, the last 8 semi-finals. But there's always kind of one eye on, well, Celtic and Rangers have avoided each other again, so you know your work's cut out. But the bottom line is one of these sides, and both of them are totally locked in to the league fight right now, and one of them won't survive. One of them's not going to make it through into the semi-finals. So how's your luck? How's your luck? Can you avoid them? Do you need to avoid them if you're Motherwell? Maybe Motherwell will go to Hampden Park and think, well, not so worried about it. I'll take that game in the semi-final rather than the final. I don't know, but I do know that there's an air of excitement about Motherwell that hasn't been there since they last won this competition back in the 80s, and I would not rule them out at all. If they can get up and down the road, back out of Aberdeen tonight, which I think they will, with a place in the quarter-final secured, I think there'd be a brave man that would bet against Motherwell because, and also, I'll just finish off by saying, could you think of a more deserving winner from the progress that's been made from the football that they've been playing this season?
Aye.
You know, Motherwell deserve something, whether it's even just getting to a final or whether it's winning it. There's something a bit special been going on at Fir Park this season, and it would be nice for them to get a payoff at the end of the day, whether that's, you know, in whatever shape that comes. It could well come from the Scottish Cup.
I think I'm right in saying the winner of that plays Neil Lennon's Dunfermline in the quarters.
Yeah.
So there you go. I think that brings us to the end of Wednesday night's Hotline Live with Record Sport. I know I say this every night, but the comments tonight in particular have been absolutely first class. You said it earlier in the show, Keith, all the regulars that come on. We love you all. Thanks very much to Michael Gannon.
There must be some right habit formers out there. But we're delighted to have them.
Aye, absolutely. Thank you to Mick Gannon at Celtic Park for freezing his backside off as usual. And like I said earlier, we'll be back after Celtic versus Stuttgart tomorrow night at 10 p.m. To pour over the result from Parkhead. Keith, it's always an absolute pleasure.
I'll see you tomorrow night, Jim Jams.
That's it. See you tomorrow night. Have the Horlicks ready. Hope you can join us then. Thanks for watching.